Hi everybody. Okay, so the sort of theme of my paper and what we've been talking about all semester has been teaching and learning during a pandemic. I think that even as educators, we're still learning. This has been so tough on all of us, and I think if we aren't taking this opportunity to learn and adapt and change, then we're probably not doing right by our students. So overall, my school year has been a little hectic. My district decided to have two modes of instruction, which is great, but we have two modes of instruction at once. So we essentially have two options. One is a virtual 5-day week where students log in from home. We've been experiencing connectivity issues, even though we give students hotspots who don't have access to internet. I just think that hotspots, while they are great, they're not always the solution to the problem, because they don't work, or the students have problems, or there's lag, or it's not like having live Wi-Fi at home. Attendance has been a huge issue. We've noticed a lot of students that say weren't coming to school pre-pandemic signed on for online instruction and now aren't attending class during pandemic. So that has been a huge issue for us. And then there's just issues within the subject areas. I teach art, for instance. It's so hard to teach students at home something that I would normally teach and demonstrate live in person, and they could, physically watch me, and they still can. We've made it work with, webcams, and I have a hover cam, but it's just still not the same. It's hard for me to not be able to be there with my students and just continuously check in and say, hey, that's great, but could you change this, or could you move this, or erase that, and just not having that time that I can spend with them. It's been an issue that I have noticed for sure. Not only that, just issues with supplies. Students don't have 12 by 18 paper at home. They don't have, all of the tools that we would normally use. So I've had to make up packets of things and hope that students come get them. So at the beginning of the year, it was great because they had to come pick up their Chromebooks, and so they picked up their supplies. Well, then about 7 or 8 weeks into the first 9 weeks, we wanted to do another supply drop, and so the art department got all of this stuff ready. We spent all this time counting out paper and getting them things that they needed. And out of 41 of my online students, 3 came to pick up their supplies. So then that burden falls on the secretaries, and I had to just, we stayed after school even, and then we had to just leave that stuff in the office, and the kids had to kind of come get it when they could, which isn't really fair to the secretaries. It definitely wasn't fair to the art department, but overall, it just puts the students behind, because if they don't have the paper, they can't complete the assignment, but we gave them the opportunity to come get it, and they didn't take it. So our other option is that we have an in-person 5-day week. Students, it's tough. They need to follow the protocol, wear their masks, socially distance, temperature checks, etc. Every classroom had to change totally, so we had to make sure that every seat was 6 feet apart. And we also have student barriers. Changes to our daily routine. We went from a 7-period day at our high school to an 8-period day at our high school to sort of alleviate some numbers in classes, which was cool. It's awesome to have a whole nother period to teach, but on the other hand, all of my periods are shorter now, so I have less time to teach what I need to teach. This also gave us an opportunity to get some juniors and seniors out of the building. So basically, if you're a junior or senior, you probably have 7th and 8th or just 8th period study hall, and then you can just leave the building. And that sort of alleviates some of the pressure when our students are leaving the building at the end of the day. And again, it's just hard to keep students separate and safe. They're here, they want to be together, they want to sit next to each other, they want to talk, they want to high five. And that's part of high school. So it's hard for you to constantly, guys, you have to separate. Guys, you have to separate. We can't do this. You can't sit next to each other. My room, it doesn't even look like an art room to me anymore. And when I look out, I'm in here right now. When I look out, all I see is face shields. All I see is shields. It's hard to connect. I'm having a really hard time connecting to my students, which is what I've always loved about teaching. I just can't. I just feel this like wall, and it's a face shield. And I understand that it has to be there, and I get it. But I just haven't come back around to that point where I'm seeing it work, I guess. We did have an outbreak at our building pre-Thanksgiving, and it forced everybody to go to remote learning. The students adapted, but they were not ready to spend 8 days at home, and we were not ready for them to spend 8 days at home. So basically what happened is we had a couple of students come down with the virus, and they happened to be on some sports teams that were practicing, so that took a lot of students out. We had a couple staff members. At one point we had 9 staff members that were either sick with the virus or quarantining because they had been in contact with another teacher that was sick. So it was rough, and we spent 8 days all online. And then after Thanksgiving break, we were able to come back, and we have been here successfully. So our hope is that we still keep and maintain what we're doing, which is our 2 modes of instruction. But I don't know, we'll just see. I don't know what's going to happen after Christmas break. I know a lot of schools in our area, we're in Mahoning County, but in Trumbull County, which is the next county over, all of their schools went to all remote until after Christmas, so not coming back until January 4th. And there was kind of a push for our county to do the same, and a lot of schools did, but ours decided to just, stay the course and do what we're doing. So this year we found a lot of problems, and I think in my own limited way I found some solutions. So the first problem is that we're teaching 2 modes of instruction at once, and I feel like I'm being split in half every moment of every day. So essentially I'm teaching a group of learners in person and a group of learners online at the same time every period. That's 2 modes of attendance. That's online attendance and in-person attendance. That's 2 modes of instruction, and there are not 2 me's. So I feel like if I'm teaching the students at home, I'm sitting behind my desk, I'm sitting in front of the webcam, I'm using my computer, then I'm not teaching the students in my classroom. And I'm projecting what I'm doing onto my large board, but it's just not the same. It's not like when I was, teaching regularly in person to my students, and I would sit in the middle of a big clump of them and I would show them what we were all doing. So I think the solution to this is just a change in scheduling. I think that we should, if we're doing this again next year, which I assume we will be, we should make it so all of the online students are in 1 or 2 of our classes, and then all of our regular students are together, so all the teachers can focus on just 1 mode of instruction at a time. The other solution to that would be just switch the schedule around. So we taught in-person learners in the morning and at-home learners in the afternoon, or vice versa. And I know that would be a big change, and that's why we didn't do it this year. We also thought that we could just do this 2 modes of instruction. I was on plenty of the planning committees and submitted proposals, and we just thought it was going to work, and then real live in person, it's just not working. So definitely a change to our schedule. Another problem that we're facing is a choice of instructional mode with no rules. So our original plan was you had to be 9 weeks in person or 9 weeks online, and then after the 9 weeks you could decide and then you could switch. And now it seems like we're just letting kids go back and forth and do whatever they want. And that has been a real problem. I don't know who's coming, who's going, what's up, what's down. Students will be logging in online and they're not an online learner. And then 3 days later we'll get an email that says, oh, hey, by the way, they're online now. So I think we just need to stick to that original 9-week rule. Connectivity issues. That has been a big problem. Like I said, even with the hotspots, a hotspot is not real Wi-Fi, or at least whatever we're providing them is not the same. And I think the thing that we really need is probably the governor to say that if students are going to be learning at home, that they should receive free internet access, like free real internet access. And I know that would be a huge expense, but if we want to keep everybody safe and if we want to continue doing what we're doing, then I think if the students are going to learn from home, that they need to have real internet access. We live in a very, very low socioeconomic area. Students here don't have access to internet at home, some of them. So I think that would be sort of a solution. And the last thing would be technology issues. So essentially our students are one-to-one, but they only have Chromebooks. And some of the programs and things that I need and other teachers need to run and do can't be run on a Chromebook. You can't download anything, it just doesn't work. So I think that the students, at least in high school, need laptops and not Chromebooks. I think, we're spending all this money on Chromebooks and repairing Chromebooks and fixing Chromebooks, when we should just start a grade level at a time getting students actual laptops that we could actually make work, and I could run things like Photoshop, Adobe InDesign, the Adobe suite, and then teaching online and in person maybe wouldn't be so bad because we could do things digitally rather than right now my students are actually physically drawing, coloring, etc. So technology that I'm finding beneficial. Obviously, like I said, we're a one-to-one school, and we actually have Google Chromebooks. So the Google Suite is our greatest tool and ally. So we only use Google Classroom. We are actually not allowed to use Zoom for any reason. Our district just found that it was not as safe as Google Meet. So we're using Google Classroom for everything. I like the way it's set up. I've been using it for years, so my students have always sort of used it and know what to do. So they can just log in, they can click the link to go on and meet with me during our class period. That's awesome. They have all the access to Drive and all of their files. A lot of them actually access their files from their phone, which I think is kind of crazy to be typing a document on their phone, but they like it for whatever reason. We can use Google Docs to do things like conferencing. So if a student is doing a writing piece in my classroom, for example, they're writing their opinion about something, then I can sort of jump in their Google Doc and say like, hey, we're going to talk a little bit. I could suggest, I could edit, and they could sort of see that happening live because I can't go and stand with them anymore. I can't go and sit with them, which is what I would normally do. We kind of just have to do it through Google Docs. Also Google Slides, I found that while we would normally do a couple of group projects in my classroom, we obviously can't do that now. So the students can use Google Slides and sort of do the same thing. They can share the slides and they can split up the tasks, and then they can see what everybody is working on. They could leave each other notes in the notes section and sort of edit live, and that's been really beneficial to my students. Obviously Screencast, which I'm using right now, has been the biggest lifesaver. Anytime I need to film a video, I use it. So the students can see me and they can see my screen, and I can just record whatever I want, and then I can just upload it to YouTube, and I can either put the link in Classroom or I could just upload the video to Classroom. It's been awesome. Another thing that I ended up using and really, really liking, I used it over the summer for a class, and so then it was obviously like ding, 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 light bulb went off when I needed it, was Flipgrid. So I feel like there's a disconnect between the students that are here and the students that are at home. And some of them still play sports and stuff, so they do still see each other, but some of them I feel like are kind of isolated. So we started using Flipgrid, and they're posting like little opinion videos, or I had each student, for instance, research an artist, and they had to go on to Flipgrid and just tell us about that artist for 2 minutes, and then the students could watch their friends' videos or watch everybody's videos, and then they had to comment on so many, which was great. It got them talking, it got them asking questions. Some of them were like, hey, I researched that artist too, did you know XYZ, which was really cool because it got them kind of talking about things that were similar, and talking about artists and artwork, which was, really the goal. Also just bringing them together in a way. I mean, we do that in Google Classroom, and the students in my class can see the students that are at home, but it just feels such a disconnect. This year is just so strange. Overall, we are making it work. The one thing that I've always said to all of my students is, adapt and overcome. And I feel like that's what this year has been. It has been adapt and overcome. We were going at this great pace the first 9 weeks, and then we had our outbreak, and it just defeated a lot of us. And we stayed the course, and we did what we needed to do. And I just feel like at any moment we could go all remote again. So in the back of my mind, I'm always planning, like, okay, we're on this lesson. Is the next lesson going to be in person, or is the next lesson going to be remote? And we hope, that we're going to be able to stay in person. I like being in person. But I guess we'll just see. So overall, I just keep using technology that I've learned in my master's so far, I have used, and I share that with my colleagues, which has been great. Just keep using the technology we have and do what we can to make it work, and hope for the best. Hope that maybe next school year is a little bit different.